What's going on YouTube? Q back here again with another video for you. Today's video, I'm about to go over all the pros and cons to my 2024 Acura Integra versus its competitors, the main competitors that is. So I've driven all of them and I do have videos on most of them, so got the experience with anything you can compare this car to besides the Germans. Actually, one of the Germans I did own, but it was the previous generation M2. But everything else, like the main competitors, so I'm about to start with those. Before I begin, I want to give a shout out to the Men of Culture, otherwise known as the MOC. We got Race Car Friends, Blueprint 1LE, 100 Gang Nate, and if you want a hoodie like this, go to 100gangclothing.com. This is 100 Gangs Nate's merch, so go check it out. So the first competitor I want to compare this car to is the Volkswagen Golf R. So that was the first of the new generation hot hatches to come out that I had my eyes on. So it had a lot of going for it. I think it came out as a 2022 model year, and I was going to buy one of those, but supply, well, they did a stop sale I believe at one point and they stopped taking orders on them. And then the price kind of strayed me away, because the previous generation, they were like 39, 40,000, and then the new generation was like 46,000. I'm like, ooh, that's kind of expensive. And then I got one of these, but that's fast forward. Prices of all the cars jumped up, and the Volkswagen Golf R just happened to be the first one. So I tried to get one, I test drove one, and I didn't have a video of that one, but I really enjoyed the car. So some of the pros that it did have to it, had a very good powertrain, like great engine delivery, like the power felt adequate. It's all-wheel drive. It's very nice on the interior, so it was probably a better on the interior than this, a better daily driver in that aspect of it. As far as being a nice vehicle, it has heated and ventilated seats. It has a sunroof. It's got a lot going for it. It's practical, and then it does have some cons to it. It is a little bit more heavy and it's not as sporty. It's at the limit, it's not as sporty, but for a daily driver, I think it's probably the best, if not the best, all-arounder. It does a lot really well. So if you're looking for a Volkswagen Golf R, I highly recommend one of those. I will give it a knock because its exterior doesn't look as good as a lot of the competitors, but it's not a bad-looking vehicle, and it's very spacious on the interior. It does come in the DCT as well as the manual, if that's your thing, but you know me over here, I'm only getting the manuals. But that car was on my radar, and sadly they're about to take the manual away for the 2024. So manual for the Golf Rs and GTIs are about to be no more. So if you're looking for one of those, get one while you can. And I actually got a call on that car right after I got one of these. SD card filled up on me again. So like I was saying, they wanted $10,000 over sticker for a 20 or 30 year anniversary model year, whatever it is. And then I know that they will be updating it with the haptic feedback on the steering wheel. They should be taking that away, and I think that's going to be for a 2024 model year. So that was like a major downfall for the first couple model years, and then they fixed it, which they should have never did that in the first place. But and the touchscreen, like that was a huge issue. But overall, great car. I recommend them. So the second car on this list is going to be the Civic Type R. Mainly the same car as this. They're siblings. They're mechanically the same. This one has a different tune and more torque to it with the tune. The exhaust is aggressive. But the Civic Type R still has a lot going for it as well. Like the seats in that car are a lot better, a whole lot better. It is a more hardcore track weapon. If you might think it looks better. Like I like the wing of the Civic Type R. I think they both look good, but I'm not gonna say if it's a pro or a con. It looks good to me. Like I don't mind being called a boy racer. So I like the looks of the Civic Type R. It's even lighter. It's about the lightest in the group when comparing it to the rest of these vehicles. It's quite a bit cheaper than this Integra Type S. If you could get one for MSRP, that's why I got this. Civic Type R was on my list, but I can't find them. The lowest I can find them is like 10,000 marked up. 5,000 if you get lucky, but I only know a couple people that got them for MSRP. And yeah, 100 Gang Nate actually got one for MSRP, so that man is very lucky. But yeah, those are 44K MSRP. This starts at like 51, 52K MSRP. So if you can get one MSRP for MSRP, the Civic Type R is cheaper. But if you're paying a 10K markup, it makes no sense not to get an Integra, because you're more likely to get one of these at MSRP than the Civic Type R. And then the cons of it, it's not going to be as good as a daily driver because it has a much more harsh suspension. It takes it up a notch or two on the suspension, and that's really about it. They're front wheel drive, if you consider that a con. A lot of people do, but at the limit, man, you really cannot tell these things are front wheel drive. You will get some torques there, but like regular driving at the limit on the track, I took mine on the track and I rode in the Civic Type R on the track. Those cars are probably the most fun cars that I've ever been in on the track. Top 3 at least in my book. So the third car on my list is going to be the WRX. So the WRX, me and Subaru but the WRX does have some things going for it. It's very inexpensive, especially if you buy a really slightly used one. You can get them for like $28,000, and then I think the base WRX is only like $30,000 or $31,000. They give deals, like you can get money off of MSRP, the sticker price now. They're readily available, huge aftermarket. And then the Subaru community, minus the dealerships that I shop at, they tend to be pretty great from what I hear. The most important thing about the WRX, not the all-wheel drive, that does help. Symmetrical all-wheel drive, that's really good. But it is extremely fun to drive. Like the first time I drove a WRX, I was completely blown away. Like that car is very capable. But it does come with some cons too. So the cons are the brakes on there are very squishy. I never noticed bad brakes until I drove a WRX, and the brakes on there are pretty bad. But like I said, aftermarket, you can take care of that. But they're still stock for stock, it's bad. And then the interior, I feel like it's on the cheap side. Now, I don't have a limited spec or I didn't test drive a limited spec like Race Car Friends has. I did drive a premium spec, which I ordered a premium spec and didn't take delivery of. I got my other Integra. But that one, like, it's got a lot of poverty spec buttons in there, like a lot of blank buttons everywhere. Like closing the trunk, it just feels light and brittle. Like you can knock it off the hinges if you slam it hard enough. Like it just didn't feel premium, but it's still a good car. And then the looks of it too. A lot of people don't like the looks. I've actually grown to like the cladding on the side. If I were to get a WRX, I would just leave it as is because it doesn't bother me. It adds a little bit of character in my book. Next car on this list, which doesn't get a whole lot of love from everybody, but that's the Hyundai Elantra N. That car is a blast to drive. It is very track focused, which is the pro and the con. So the pro there, it handles really well, and it's very similar, like how the powertrain hits compared to the Integra. It's like they're basically the same car. It's a much cheaper version than the Type R and Type S. The exhaust sounds better than I think every car that's on this list that I'm going to name, and I'll rank the Integra and WRX interchangeably 2 or 3, but this stock, I'll give it to the Integra, WRX number 3, but aftermarket, the WRX is going to sound the best. But the Elantra N, that thing just handles. The suspension is firm. It's got a ton of customization. Like I was overwhelmed when I sat in there. I'm like, all these buttons just everywhere. You can customize a lot with that vehicle, and it has the illuminated end in the seats. I like that. The seats look pretty cool. It's a cool looking car. You can get that with the manual and the DCT, and you can get the WRX with the CVT or a manual. Who gets the CVT? I don't know anybody that has one, but it's available if you need it. But the DCT and the Elantra N is good from what I hear, but I drove a manual version. The color selection is not a whole lot to choose from, and like I said, I don't like the looks at all. Like that would stray me away. But the 2024, they revised it. They did a mid-cycle refresh, and the Elantra N looks much, much better. So if you're looking for a car, I highly recommend that one as well. Like, it's probably the best value. The best value car on this list is going to be the WRX or the Elantra N, depending if you want all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive. I would personally go for the WRX. That's hard to say. But the Elantra N gives you a whole lot, like a whole lot. Like, the looks kind of strayed me away. And one thing that takes away from the daily drivability of the Elantra N, I mean, you can remove it, but it has a brace in the trunk for extra rigidity. Like I said, it's a track-focused car. And that thing, the sounds it makes, the feel of it is really good. The shifter isn't the best though. So if I have to rank the shifters, well, I got one more car. The Elantra N, I'll probably put the shifting feel at the bottom along with the Volkswagen. It's been so long since I've driven both of those. I actually drove them back to back, and the shifter isn't as good as everything else. Those would be the bottom two. Not to say that they're bad, but the other shifters are just better. So I'm going to lump the Germans up because I haven't had any experience with those. I haven't test drove those. I haven't had any interest in them. But the BMW 240i, the Mercedes-Benz CLA, and then the Audi A3, like those are all pretty similar. You can get them with all-wheel drive. None of them have manuals. They're heavier and they're more expensive, but they are very nice cars. They're just not my cup of tea to really classify them. Well, you can cross-shop them, but since I only cross-shop the manuals, then I never looked at them for real. But I did have an M2, and that M2 was the most fun I've ever owned. But it was the previous generation M2, the F87 M2. So like the G87 series of the 2 Series. They say it's fun, and they're fast. All of them are much faster than this car, but it depends on what you want. I don't want what those cars offer, but somebody else does. Not a knock against them, but just not my cup of tea. So the final competitor on the list, which I have sitting behind this one, is the GR Corolla. Forgot to even put it on my list of cars that I'm naming, but this is my other car I own. And the GR Corolla, to me, out of all these cars, this one is the most fun to drive. And the looks department isn't all that, but this car is not the best daily driver, but just the feeling of driving this car. The seating position isn't great either, but I don't know why I love this car so much. Like, this is the car, like when I want to drive the two on a daily basis, this is the one I want to drive when I want to have the most fun. Now the Integra is more comfortable, a more well-rounded vehicle, but this car is just a blast to drive. It's got all-wheel drive, a manual, and the shifter is pretty good in here. It's not as good as the Integra, but ranking them all, the Type S and Type R would have the best shifter, and then the GR Corolla and WRX, they're about second place. Then I put the Volkswagen and the Elantra N underneath that. But this car has a ton of character, like a 3-cylinder turbocharged 1.6 liter. The exhaust, it has a unique exhaust, and it's kind of on the deeper side, which you would think it would sound like really wimpy for what it is, but the way it delivers the power, like you gotta rev it out, and I really enjoy that in this car. So this GR Corolla is a ton of fun to drive, and it's small, so that can be a pro and a con. It's a con for me because I got a wife and 2 kids, so we can't all fit in there in the storage, and the practicality is terrible. I say that in a lot of the videos. But man, the smiles on my face just doing what I do in this vehicle. There's only one car that I have had which is more fun than this car. Can you guess what it is? If you guessed the Camaro, you're wrong. That was my BMW M2. That was the most fun car that I ever had, and I sold it to get these 2 cars. Sad as it is, but gotta do what you gotta do. So all in all, that's my thoughts on the competitors of essentially these 2 cars. So which one would I recommend? It all depends on what you want, man. What do you prioritize? Like for me, the Integra is my daily driver, so that's why I got that car. But the GR Corolla, that's my fun car. So they have 2 different purposes for me and my lifestyle. If I had to just choose one car out of this whole list, what would it be? Oh, that's a hard choice. Given all the MSRPs and everything, I really couldn't answer because I gotta like look at every single category. But I recommend all of them for any. It depends on you as a person. So if you like a more premium interior with, you're not that track focused, Golf R. If you like a track focus and a nice interior, great driving, this and the Type R if you want a little bit more rough around the edges, but with the boy racerist looks to it. The Elantra N, great value. WRX, great value. Front wheel drive versus rear wheel drive. If you want to be a budget friendly person, one of those 2. So the WRX or the Elantra N, whichever one. If you want more of a track car, the Elantra N. If you want to modify it and make yours look different, WRX. The GR Corolla, I honestly don't even know who it's for. It's for me, that's who it's for. But I just love driving that car. And the aftermarket on there is coming on slowly. It'll get there at one point, but the GR Corolla is like, if you want a WRX, I don't know, why wouldn't I get the WRX over one of those? I find the Corolla GR to be more fun than the WRX. It's just the brakes are already there. It's just well put together. And then for MSRP, it doesn't cost too much more. But once you start adding on the limitless slip differentials and the tech packages and all that, it's going to get you up to like $41,000, which gets you to the point of about WRX GT, but I don't know. It depends on what you want. Like, I can't recommend. You tell me your needs, I'll tell you what you should get. Oh yeah, the Germans, Mercedes if you like the badge. I don't know why people buy the CLAs like that. The AMGs are fast, I guess, if you want a potent 4-cylinder engine, but I would choose the Audi or the BMW over it every single time. The Audi A3/S3, if you need, I don't know, they're kind of a toss-up, but I would choose BMW over the Audi, to be honest. Man, they're both all about the same. They're pretty close. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, browse the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one.